We're told an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but does this humble fruit really have an outsized positive effect on our health? The world loves apples. Every year, almost 100 million tons of apples are produced globally. These fruits, which comes in a wide range of colors and flavors, have long had a reputation for helping us stay healthy. The popular phrase "an apple a day keeps the doctor away" originates from a slightly wordier Welsh proverb written in 1866, "Eat an apple on going to bed, and you'll keep the doctor from earning his bread." But is there any truth at the core of this long-standing maxim? And are apples especially healthy compared with other fruit? First, let's think about the nutrients that apples contain. For one thing, they are a rich source of phytochemicals, including flavonols. These compounds have been linked to numerous health benefits, such as maintaining a healthy weight and lowering your heart disease risk. Apples also contain various polyphenols, including anthocyanins, which help give some apple peel its red color and are associated with improved heart health. Another polyphenol you'll find in apples is floridzin. It has been found to help control blood glucose. There's also lots of fiber in apples, largely pectin, which reduces the amount of low-density lipoproteins, LDLs, the unhealthy form of cholesterol in our blood. Pectin also lowers the amount of sugar and fat we absorb from food, helping to stabilize our blood sugar levels. These nutrients in apples do seem to offer health benefits. A 2017 review of 5 studies reported that eating apples is associated with an 18% reduction in the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Another review from 2022, which analyzed 18 studies, found that eating more apples, or apple-derived foods such as apple juice, can reduce cholesterol if you sustain the habit for more than 1 week. Having a healthy diet in general can lower your risk of cancer by up to 40%, largely thanks to bioactive compounds, phytochemicals, that are common in apples. Some studies have even linked apple consumption to having a lower risk of developing certain cancers. Regularly eating apples appears to be associated with various health benefits, and we know they're packed with healthy compounds. But are apples, specifically, any more effective than other plant-based foods at keeping the doctor away? Apples don't have much vitamin C, and they have no iron or calcium, but they have so many other ingredients that promote health and do wonderful things for the body, says Janet Colson, professor of nutrition and food science at Middle Tennessee State University in the U.S. Some researchers say apples have the second highest level of antioxidant power among all fruits. Apples contain compounds that are common to many fruits and vegetables, including those helpful polyphenol, says Flavia Guzzo, associate professor of plant biology at the University of Verona in Italy. Polyphenol are strong antioxidant molecules. They help to balance the ratio of antioxidants to free radicals in our bodies. Free radicals are highly reactive, potentially cell-damaging oxygen molecules. By keeping free radicals in check, we reduce our risk of developing diseases including cancer and heart disease through long-term inflammation. Some researchers say apples have the second highest level of antioxidant power among all fruits. Apples also contain the polyphenol floridzin, which is much less common within the other fruits in your fruit bowl. Like pectin, floridzin appears to lessen the amount of sugar we absorb into our blood from food. Apples are also a good source of phenolic compounds, which are another form of phytochemical. One study found that people living in the U.S. get around 1/5 of their total phenolic intake from apples. Research suggests that apple phenolic compounds are associated with a lower risk of heart disease, cancer, asthma, diabetes, and obesity. But it isn't just the powerful polyphenol and antioxidant punch that has led some scientists to recommend apples over other fruit. In several papers, scientists recommend regular apple eating because the fruits are simply so widely available. That means that eating them regularly is something that is relatively achievable for many people. It's clear that apples have the potential to improve our health. But it's quite a big claim to say that eating one every day will prevent us from having to go to the GP. Thankfully, one 2015 study took on this exact question. Researchers analyzed a survey of nearly 9,000 people, which the participants stated what they ate during one 24-hour period, which they said was indicative of their typical daily diet. They found that apple eaters were more likely than apple avoiders to keep the doctor away. However, this result wasn't statistically significant when taking into account that apple eaters are more likely to be more educated and were less likely to smoke. The main finding, that there isn't much of an association between people who regularly consume an apple a day and the likelihood of visiting a physician, is because it's complex, says lead researcher Matthew Davis, adjunct associate professor of epidemiology at Dartmouth Geisel School of Medicine in New Hampshire, US. A more pertinent saying might be, an apple a day keeps the pharmacist away. People who consume apples, based on our analyses, are healthier in general. But they also found that daily apple eaters were less likely to be reliant on prescription medication, and this was still a significant finding when adjusting for socioeconomic differences between participants who ate one apple per day and those who didn't. Therefore, the paper concludes, a more pertinent saying might be, an apple a day keeps the pharmacist away. But Davis has issues with the apple a day phrase, and says there may be another reason why he and colleagues didn't find a connection between daily apple consumption and going to the doctor. The underlying assumption is that you only visit the doctor when you're sick, but people visit the doctor for annual checkups and other prevention-type things, he says. This is why Davis also analyzed the data around the likelihood of using prescription medication, too. But ultimately, he says, apples alone aren't enough to stop you having to visit the GP, and that the most impactful thing is having a healthy diet overall. Which really is what the saying is getting at, he says. Coulson agrees that the apple a day phrase alludes to regularly eating plant-based foods. Apples are a good example because they're so readily available, affordable, have a long shelf life. Before fridges, you could put apples in the cellar and they would last a long time, and they don't attract mold, she says. Other studies have found health benefits relating to daily apple eating, but only when people consume more than one per day. Another study found that eating 3 apples daily stimulated statistically significant weight loss. In one study published in 2020, researchers split 40 participants, who all had mildly elevated cholesterol levels, into 2 groups. One of those groups ate 2 apples per day, while the other had an apple drink with similar calories. The experiment lasted 8 weeks and, apart from the apple products, the participants didn't make any other changes to their diets. The researchers found that the apple eaters had a clinically significant lower level of cholesterol at the end of the study. However, one weakness of this study at its small size 40 participants is a relatively low sample size from which to draw any big conclusions. Another study found that eating 3 apples daily stimulated statistically significant weight loss and improved blood glucose levels, which wasn't statistically significant when followed up in 40 overweight women. As for how best to eat apples to get the greatest benefit from them, Guzzo advises against removing the skin first. We should eat the peel of apples, as this is where most of the apple's polyphenol can be found, she says. More like this, can chicken soup really fight off a cold? Do spices really benefit our health? Are fermented foods actually good for us? And ancient varieties are preferable to new varieties of apple, says Guzzo. In 2021, she and colleagues published a paper looking at the nutritional value of the Palm Prussian apple, an ancient apple from northern Italy, which she found was richer in polyphenol than more modern apple varieties. When breeders select new varieties, they look to other traits, including size and taste and robustness of the trees, she says. And when they select these traits, rather than polyphenol content, the variety becomes poorer from a health point of view. She says some polyphenol can produce a bitter taste, and that sweeter varieties probably contain a lower proportion of these compounds. As for color, Guzzo says this doesn't matter so much. Both the polyphenol that cause apple skin to be red or green are both good for us. Ultimately, while eating an apple a day may not mean you visit the doctor less often, it could impact your overall health or your reliance on long-term medication. But, as is always the case, the bigger picture is complicated. Eating an apple a day is great, says Guzzo, but only if that is part of a diet rich in various other plant-based foods, since that is a key driver of good health. If you like this story, sign up for the Essential List newsletter, a hand-picked selection of features, videos, and can't-miss news, delivered to your inbox twice a week. For more science, technology, environment, and health stories from the BBC, follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram.